that organises against the arms factory here. That's part of L3 Harris, the American company. And because there's a resurgence in this group because of what's happening in Gaza, now that that's kind of lost media attention, we're finding it again hard to mobilise people. So I think something that we need to be doing as peace activists is making it clear that what's happening in Palestine, DRC, Sedan, etc., is symptomatic of a broader problem, so that we don't lose those solidarities between movements that have been built, and that opening in the climate movement for something more radical also isn't lost. So, for example, now in our local group, we're starting to speak about the interconnectedness of all these issues. We plan to organise more open meetings with people outside of our bubbles, connecting these issues to people's lives, and the upsurge we're also seeing in the UK, and we're seeing across Europe in the far right. And another kind of way we're thinking about this too is what is the kind of broader movement that we're a part of? And if the arms factory in our town were to close or move tomorrow, what else would we have achieved in terms of movement building or changing our community's views on where the government puts its money and how it makes money, and ultimately how we should be functioning as a society? I know this is also something that kind of other groups are experiencing kind of across the UK, how to balance that sense of urgency on a particular issue, but also make sure that we're thinking kind of about the long-term change we're creating within society, and how we talk about those issues that are really kind of, become really hard to shift in society, and just kind of, we can't speak about them. But we have to find ways to do so. Otherwise, I guess we will run out of time. I think I might have run out of time on that point.
No problem, no problem. Okay. Is there any questions to Yoli? I have one, because what I'm sort of think is so necessary if we should come further and not only around trying to extinguish fires over every place and only discuss in terms of what happens with the military money, is the need for a constructive plan like Gandhi always talked about, where we both address the importance for rural economies and urban economies, that we call it sort of a just transition plan. Is there something like that going on in the UK?
Yeah, I mean, I think in the discussion, or increasing discussions now around kind of shifting narratives around military spending, there's at least increased acknowledgement that, kind of local economies can't be left out of the discussion, workers can't be left out of the discussion. I still think we're quite bad at connecting with works and industries. I think that's partly also about the shift in the power of unions, that what used to be a kind of maybe white working class base in the UK many decades ago, that could be accessed through unions, now it's a lot broader. There's a far bigger migrant workforce that doesn't have that same representation. And I just, I mean, also the way society has shifted to a power capitalist and consumerist, I think there's less of a kind of social fabric that you can also tap into in terms of kind of rallying support from workers, which is also a very broad term, which all works in some respect. But yeah, I think that's a challenge now. And I think maybe we fall back on how we used to be able to organise with unions and expect to be able to do the same. But I think there needs to be a lot more thinking around how we engage with different workforces and to what extent that's possible.
So thank you. Then I will give the word to Igor Romanchuk, who I would say is... Oh, do you wanted to put the question, Igor?
Yeah, I just wanted to ask the question. What a nice coincidence. I would like to thank you, Jolie, for the speech. Honestly, you covered lots of points that I also want to address in my speech about the urgency of the issues, connectivity between the unions and the grassroots organizations. So I was really surprised and I'm really glad that you also understand this urgency and share the same position. My question would be, because I never lived in the UK, what are the strongest for now grassroots organizations, civil society movements, or trade unions? One, like for instance, you as a climate activist could also speak to regarding the collaboration that would actually have like some potentially big impacts, like other like bigger organizations that organize workers specifically, and how does it look like?
I think in terms of workers, we do have some, in certain industries, there are very kind of strong and more left-wing unions. For example, in transport industries and maybe social services, like kind of nurses and doctors. But then when it comes to, for example, accessing people working in kind of engineering and arms industries, I think that's more difficult. I feel we're quite fragmented in a sense in terms of movements, which again is difficult. It used to be Extinction Rebellion that was a big climate movement. Now they've kind of branched into Just Stop Oil and Youth Demand. This is interesting because Youth Demand don't simply focus on climate, they're also bringing in issues on Palestine and militarism. But yeah, it's quite hard. I'm not sure exactly that there's some kind of key large groups that you tap into.
Yeah, okay. Thank you for the answer then.
Okay, then we move over to Igor Romanchuk, which I think is a very interesting new force. There has been individuals in Sweden like Alexei Sashnin, those who have to flee from Russia because of the repression and then came to the West and was very greeted when they only focused on criticizing the Russian government. But if they said anything that also maybe criticized some right-wing violence in Ukraine, they were immediately cancelled from any social and political connections. So it seems like those from Russia, and this includes probably Ukraine as well, who happens to be lacking double standards, who says it's necessary to look upon the oppression everywhere, whether that is in EU countries or Russia or Ukraine or wherever. They are especially targeted as very, very dangerous. And of course, we understand why. There are many cases like this. And now, happily, those exiled Ukrainians and Russians have united in common, and you can tell more about it. I thought it was also related to this piece from below, which we had a lot of interviews with in a paper we issue in Sweden called Just Transition, because we think this is very important to have challenging these double standards, and in that possibility also to link the issues as we had here. So please take the floor, Igor.
Thank you. What you really had a nice starter to my speech, because you provide exactly the core of our organization quite well. Not only do we actually organize the exiles, but more the people who are looking with an increased courage and will for any system changes within the Eastern Europe. Not only Russia, Ukraine, we also have some activists now from Kazakhstan. We are actively growing, like with new members from Spain, US, which is a good sign. But the principle, which is something that combines us all, is that we see the need not only of the change of the president, which is something that is really different when it comes to liberals and us, is that we kind of more geared towards this systematic approach of changing the whole system, how it runs, and in whose interest does it run, which is the key question when it comes also to any peace initiative, which is really, really needed right now. A couple of days ago, there has been a remarkable date, namely that the Ukrainian war has been lasting for more than 1,418 days. This especially is important given that the Second World War, which in Eastern Europe is mostly dated from 41 to 45, which was exactly the time zone in which German-Soviet war happened, has been already shorter in time than the current war. Partially due to the modern warfare standards, how it's run, but also partially due to the simple fact that not a single state in this bloody warfare cannot get any upper hand on the front line. However, despite it, no one seems to be really interested in ending it, due to the simple fact that there are so many political and economic interests of the 1% of the most powerful people involved in it, with vested interests in keeping up with the warfare. Probably it's not something new that I'm telling you that whatever the talks are within the circles of EU ministers or defense ministers of NATO are mostly centered on the on Russia. Again, you can hear like the word Russia so many times, and you could do it from like 2022. It's always been the headline and always been the prime reason why the militarization has to take the pace it is taking right now at the current state. And it seems to me that for now, for the beginning of 2026, pretty much no one on the West has any illusions now about the Ukrainian regime, which is known for sending its people to the front lines without their will, and also known for restricting the labor rights. For instance, since the beginning of war, of course, no trade union are allowed to do any strikes or any protests related to the labor rights. Moreover, if you are defending the country, your employer is officially allowed to fire you without any compensation whatsoever. Government just simply takes the role of paying you whatever it can or whatever it seems necessary for your role, whatever comes to you under the existing inefficient, corrupt token system of the modern Ukraine. And you're allowed to be grateful for that and are expected to give your life away. So with all this in mind, I want to really address the message of how to overcome this. What can we actually do, and what are we as PSL, Post-Soviet Left Organization, are actually working for? For now, we are developing the program, economic, political program of change, and we are actively connecting with people within our countries, mostly Ukraine and Russia, because pretty much 60% of our members are from Russia, and around 15% or 20% are from Ukraine. The aim is to give the people this prospect of future, because this is something that we as peace activists, taken broadly, oftentimes lack, is that we not only demand the peace, because even if there is, as the Gaza case shown us, that there can be a peace, there can be a ceasefire. The people can stop shooting for a couple of days, but it doesn't mean that there is a systematic solution to the problem. Because systematic solution demands systematic change in our current conditions, given that the global contradictions, the forces that are driving the global conflicts are staying the same. So exactly the message of the peace from below that we actively support in our organization is that without active trade unions, without active civil society, which is not only active but also is indeed powerful enough to constitute a fourth or fifth peril of power in all of our countries, we cannot hope for that. We cannot hope for any change. So for us, as people who desperately want peace, one way forward, which could be both realistic and that is pretty much the only one that I seem to be indeed powerful, given the time constraints that we have, is to simply organize ourselves with the most powerful existent trade unions and civil society organizations locally. Again, this is probably a really obvious idea. I'm not like developing and claiming to develop something extraordinary new here, but still lots of people in the movement kind of forget it. They're just stuck in their own theorizing on how things could be, or they're, again, as Jolie rightfully mentioned, are only targeting one specific problem at a time without considering the global and the bigger picture. So for that, the constant contact with trade unions, again, civil society organizations, climate change organizations, whatever is powerful and whatever is independent and indeed grassroots in our country is a prerequisite for any systematic change. And given that, lots of trade unions, both in Ukraine, in Russia, that are still existing on a legal or illegal basis, have connections to some international organizations, like, for instance, the famous Rosa Luxemburg Foundation. This also opens up a really good opportunity and prospects for us as international speakers to perhaps coordinate and organize forces for the collaboration, which would be indeed really powerful, needed, and very, very timely. Because without, we don't have the time to organize every single sector in its own trade union. But we have to work with what we have, and we have to convince and listen to the people and really be the ones who are enacting the people's will. Because only with the real people, real cases, with combating the real problems of the people on the grassroots basis, can we have the hope of being a stable and powerful force. That's it from my side.
Thank you. So is there any questions to Igor? Yeah, now you have to think a bit here, because we have these interesting people here, and we have to show that we are interested in what they say. Do you agree with me that this is really an interesting new force here? Exiled people from the Soviet space, former Soviet space. Now, interesting to hear it's from Kazakhstan as well.
Yeah, we have a couple of people.
Did you wave your hand, Palle?
Yeah, I look forward to the broader, the common debate.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. So then let's go on. Then I asked Maximilian Isendal from Nordbruk, which is an organization for small farmers and ecology and such issues, members of Via Campesina. So please take the floor.
Thank you. And thank you to the previous speakers also. I don't have a very as long speech. I was only aware of this yesterday, so I'm not really as prepared. But I will say some general things about the Via Campesina, which is about collaboration. It's quite a lot of collaboration, because it's like 190 organizations together. But yeah, I'll start from the beginning. My name is Maximilian Isendal, and in Sweden we have a very small organization called Nordbruk, and together globally we are about 200 million members, or 250 million members, mostly farmers, but also farm workers, indigenous people, fishers, and foresters, like myself in Sweden. Some of the big issues are against the free trade and other neoliberal policies, land grabbing, stop of genetic modified organisms, because what we work for is called food sovereignty, the right to democratically decided food policies and quite a lot of human rights, right to land, seed and water and so on. Big important achievement on the global level was adoption of the UN Declaration on the Rights of Peasants and Other People Working in Rural Areas, which was adopted in 2018. So yeah, we work both on the global level and also on other levels where decisions are made, as well as the grassroots. And regarding collaboration, I think Nordblick was to a large extent created to be able to enable Swedish farmers and other people to be part of Läget Campesina and to be part of that collaboration, and also to be able to have an organization that is working against neoliberal policies and for food sovereignty. And that was actually 30 years ago now that Nordblick was created, but we are still a very small organization. But I think something is going in the right direction now. We are becoming more people, and I think there is more interest in these issues. So yeah, we will see. We've always been quite a small organization, but I think we have at least a quite good, strong ideological grounding with the Läget Campesina, something that we share globally. So yeah, I hope we can grab the momentum and be a more effective organization and movement. Yeah, I also want to say that if someone is interested, we have a very good book written by one of our founding members called Back to Basics: A Step Forward, which is available both in Swedish and in English, and you can find it on Nordblick's website. Yeah, clearly natural resources are quite usually connected to a lot of wars and conflicts, either directly or indirectly. So as a former natural resource management organization, I think we have quite a good position to be collaborating with quite broadly. We try to do that. A lot of our time goes to collaborating with other people, and if we become more members, we can have an even broader network for hopefully. Of course, also in Sweden, for example, with the Friends of the Earth, for example, which have been going on for a long time, and other environmental organizations and solidarity movements, other producers organizations, and so on. It's a lot more to do. For example, with mining, we could be doing a lot more in Sweden, and then internationally, of course, we can. And we are trying to have a more concrete solidarity within Läget Campesina, and yeah, since the start of the ongoing genocide in Palestine, the solidarity with Palestine and with our Palestinian sister organization has been a special focus. Also, for myself, I was in West Bank this November 2025 as part of that work, Nordblick work. So I went as a volunteer with the farmers, and to show solidarity in person and to build contacts, and to be able to develop a good strategy for us to continue the work. So that it's there's a lot of things that we can have to do, but it's also very, very difficult, because the Läget Campesina organization in Palestine was also attacked just 2 days before I was about to leave Palestine. We got the news that you have 2 offices, both were raided and everything was destroyed. Several of the employees were arrested and detained, and also the seed bank, which I don't remember how many different varieties they say of indigenous Palestinian seeds, but it was also attacked. So it's it's a difficult situation, but we try to go on with this collaboration and see how we can support. And of course, it doesn't also have to be only Palestine, but we have also Leviak and Palestina members in like 90 countries. So for example, also Sudan and Venezuela and Congo. So there is a lot more concrete solidarity we can do just staying inside of Leviak and Palestina. And then of course there is allies also. And I shouldn't talk so much about how great we are, because there's a lot of things that we have not been able to do because we are too few. But at least I would say that there is good potential to have collaboration based on these questions linked to natural resources and the rights perspectives connected to natural resources and food and so on. I don't know how long I've talked now, but maybe that is it. I'm not trying to be positive, but there's also big problems here in Sweden also. For example, with the media and so on, it's very limited. We'll see. Well, thank you.
Well, thank you. And to connect to the other contributions, I know you personally have been involved in this IKEA land grabbing. And that links very much to this East-West conflict. I really wonder what happened with the Poroshenko decision to ban export of timber from Ukraine in 2016, which then was immediately attacked by the European Union, because this was a threat against what Poroshenko wanted was to defend the forests, but mainly maybe to defend the industry that used the timber for processing, maybe making furniture or whatever. And this was immediately attacked by the European Union. Because they wanted this timber to the furniture factories in Poland and Romania. And I guess IKEA was partly a part of that too. What I do miss is that there is constant only focusing on the security side of the Ukraine conflict, but this issue of both the black soil, agriculture and forestry is often missed, sort of. And of course that is then suddenly puts EU in a not so positive aspect. But you have also really looked into this land grabbing and in Baltic states, but maybe in other places in Eastern Europe as well. And I think this is really an issue where we have to look on what is the role of Western country in this regard. So, please tell us about IKEA and land grabbing.
Oh, sorry, I didn't realize it was a question.
Oh, yeah.
But yes, definitely. It's also very connected to why Nordbook was created, was because the reason the farmers that were mobilized in 1992, it was because of the EU economic legislation that was about to be introduced in Sweden before even we voted that land and natural resources should be up for sale for the highest bidder, and no restrictions regarding that you have to. But if you buy land, you should work it yourself and so on, and it should not be for speculative use. So that was why we were formed, and but unfortunately the legislation passed and we entered the EU. So we have had a worsening situation with natural resources, of course, increased land grabbing, land speculation, deterioration of the rural economy as a result. And so when the Eastern European countries joined the EU, the same situation, they were faced with the same situation. And many of the countries tried to avoid this legislation and put some restrictions that if you buy land, then well, you can't buy too much of it, or you have to have education in farming, for example. But the EU was directly trying to, after actually a 15-year-old, I don't know what you call it, not a truce, but the 15-year-old period, they had to enforce this law, and after that, very quickly, a lot of land was bought up by, for example, IKEA, and I think IKEA owns 90,000 hectares in Latvia, or if it might be even more, because that is quite old numbers, but it's huge areas in these very small countries, in the Baltic states, for example. And it was very clear in the discussion in Lithuania about law restricting land acquisition, forest land acquisition, that Sweden was trying to influence Lithuanian law by using the EU as a tool. So yeah, that's some examples that I think quite instructive of how EU is affecting these questions that we work with. If that is enough.
No, thank you. These questions are very seldom discussed, so thank you very much for informing us. So then we have the final speaker, who replaces in the last second. So Mariana Rodriguez, you have made this really interesting book, All In, which is interesting not only because of its content, but also the way you, with lots of energy, really goes around and initiates discussions about it. So it becomes a collective process, more or less. So it's very nice that you could, when now Mariana was sick, that you could replace her, as you are the second author of this interesting book project. So please take the floor.
Hello, everyone. Yeah, so I'm Sinan. I am originally from Turkey, but I live in Portugal for 15 years. I'm mostly doing climate stuff nowadays, but I was doing other things in the past. I'm invited here because of the book All In, and so that's the angle that I will take, which means I wouldn't talk about peace or war or militarization. These are not the right, this is like, these things were already said, and there are upcoming sessions that with more interesting people to talk about these things. So I would come with my strategy hat and with my movement ecosystem awareness hat, because this is more connected to the book, and it's also a contribution that I can bring. So I'll just start very quickly with, there's this thing of good strategy, right? A good strategy is when you combine your strengths and apply them effectively and efficiently on a concrete opportunity in front of you. So, and I say efficiently and effectively, meaning you combine strengths in a way that they don't cancel each other. Like you really make a coherent sense of them, and efficiently in the sense of you find the best combination of how to do those things. So because of the book project, not because of the book as a product, but because of the process that it launched, we have been having some discussions about what's going on now, what is the most interesting movement level conversation, and we were looking at different things. And one of the things is, which is what I want to bring here, is the context now is specific. What is specific about it? In terms of militarization, in terms of military, in terms of war framework, all this connected to authoritarian regimes and so on, there is some context here which comes, one, with increased aggression. This comes in with Venezuela, with the threats of aggression to Sahel alliance, as well as the ongoing genocide in Palestine. So there is this very concrete decolonial context in which we live. At the same time, in Europe, there is the austerity that is coming through NATO. NATO spendings. This is actually happening in many countries. Public spendings are being diminished in other sectors in order to save money for military spending. At the same time, quite some people in Europe are fed up with Trump's bullying. This is agitating a group of people that are typically more centrist, more like European federalists, more liberals and so on, but they are fed up with that. And at the same time, the war in Ukraine and the kind of catching up bandwagon of the European Union about what to do about it, there's no plan and so on, and that is agitating another group of middle class in Eastern Europe. And by middle class, I mean the standard, like the archaic definition of the term, small capitalists, farmer capitalists, and so on, and together, like with all that ecosystem, and all these people are affected. So, and all of these people are talking about arms, talking about weapons, talking about money, talking about austerity, and so on. All of these friends. This is a unique opportunity, and at this very moment, we have a bunch of strengths that can be applied. One was already mentioned. The pro-Palestine movement radicalized a bunch of people and created new organizers, and they are looking for ways forward, both for Palestine, but also now that they, like, a lot of people got politicized through the genocide, but now they understood the colonial perspectives, the imperialism, and so like they realize this larger frameworks and they want to act on that. At the same time, a lot of the other social movements have been quite open to talk in terms of militarization. This can be the feminist movement, this can be climate justice movement, and there's already a peace movement in Europe, decades long. And this second one, which is the ally movements, what do they provide? They provide organizers. Some of the organizers can just do militarization now, but also they would have a multiplier effect. If something big happens, all of these people will join in and will also echo the language. And third, in many countries in Europe, there's a lot of conversation about conscription, which is annoying a lot of the youth. Because they were promised some other thing, and now they're like, there will be military service, required military service, and so on. And this is annoying a lot of people. So these people are acting already, right? So there's all these strengths at the same time. So we think that we have to be very intelligent, strategically very intelligent about how we address all of these opportunities and how can we combine all of these forces. And we think there's a real moment in Europe, specifically in Europe now, that can have transformative effect in society and also in the balance of powers. So what is essential here? So we wrote this up. I'm going to put it in the chat. We wrote this up as a call to a call, but I'll get there. So what is essential here? One thing is, we are now in a context where most of the middle class reaction is neutralized. So because normally, so I'm coming from Turkey, but it also applies to Portugal. So when we talk against NATO, most of the middle class, you know, the influencers, the people who control the media, they would fight against you. But now many of those people, through austerity, through Trump's bullying, Greenland, all that crap, and also through Ukraine, they are not that sure about it. So that's really useful moment, strategically very good moment. There is a lot of politicization potential here through these different ways. So new people can become anti-imperialists now, who are currently not. So it's not just that it would mobilize the people that are already with us, but a lot of people who are now questioning what's going on. So this is the people that are hit by austerity because of NATO spending. These are working class people. It has potential of movement building, so making all these connections that the previous speakers talked about. People coming from the peace side, people coming from anti-imperialism side, people coming from anti-austerity side. There's a lot of movement building going on. But we need to think at the movement level, because these are different. So these are different groups of people in the society that we want to address, and we have to find frameworks that feed each other and don't cancel each other. And that's really an important balance. So that it has transformative power, we have to be sure to not do some sort of like centrist or liberal tacticist version, but at the same time not do but also not do something that would create an isolated bubble. And I think we have this potential at the moment now. We didn't have this last year. We have it now. And we might not have it next year also. I mean, everything that we defend, we will continue defending, but now there's a strategic moment. And it also has transnational potential. We can build transnational movement through this. Large-scale decolonial and anti-imperialist peace movement at the transnational level in Europe. So this is my contribution, and we wrote up a text. So we are coming from the organizing perspective as the other speakers here. So we wrote up a call that I put on the chat. It's not exactly a call. It's more like a meta call, I would say, because we are saying, because we're looking at this thing, we spent some time looking at this thing, we noticed this important moment and somebody should grab it. Somebody well positioned, or somebody's, right? Different groups, organizations, movement actors should grab it and pay attention to it at the degree that is necessary at the moment to grasp all these opportunities that are currently in front of us. And we're talking to a bunch of groups and organizers from different perspectives that have been already thinking about this, because like when we say this, there's this moment, we're not saying something extremely novel, right? We're catching something that is already in the air. It's not like we are producing some new information, but sometimes this like stepping back and looking at the movement ecosystem altogether gives some coherency to the thought process. And sometimes we should give ourselves some space to think in at that level of abstraction. And this is the conversation that we are trying to facilitate, let's say, so that somebody picks it up and moves forward. So this is what I'm bringing to the table. As I said, as was said, so Mariana is actually more up to date about like exactly where we are at this process, because she has been doing this, but she just woke up very sick today, so I took over. So thanks a lot, and this is what I have to share for the time being. Sorry.
Thank you very much for really contributing with some new aspects and really interesting. Timing is really essential for movement. Sometimes you simply have to develop and wait for the moment. But when the moment comes, you really have to take the initiatives. And then you brought to me, I will say, a sense of not mainly thinking in terms of the idealistic, now we have to unite those and those, but in terms of where you have critical masses. That's as I understand. Which groups have you specifically discussed with?
Well, I don't know. I mean, so I know and I don't know, right? So there's a lot of groups that have been doing a lot of anti-imperialist work already through pro-Palestine, through war in Russia, but also we have had a lot of contacts. We had just before we wrote, but as we were writing this text, a lot of comrades from Latin America were like saying something is coming, right? And then by the time we published the article, something did come. So there are all these groups, but in Europe, there's a lot of groups that have been working on this issue. So mainly groups that have been doing pro-Palestine stuff. People have been doing campaigns against militarization as such. But I don't know how to name them because I don't really know in which stage where people are. What I do know is that in that link, there's a very small form where we collect people's input so that if this has critical mass to move forward, that we can put all these people together to talk with each other. Yeah, so I think this is all I can say. And also because, I mean, there is a call to action, I think, for April or May already coming from Spain, but we are not making a call for action necessarily. I mean, that might be part of it, but there is bigger potential than one action at this point. There's bigger potential for serious alliance building, serious narrative frameworks that can hold a lot of things at once and so on. And I don't know where.
also a preface for the Danish edition, and in that I urge that we who see what you are suggesting, that we actually form study groups over this frame that you are proposing, of viewing for me a new kind of way of viewing our movements. Whereas, I mean, I'm an old climate activist and environmentalist, and so I've been constantly focusing on this subject and that subject over the years, on traffic, on energy, on climate, on different aspects of all these issues, and I've felt very much, it was a message for me that you had in this book also. Maybe because I've been it for so many years, but that I really need this push to open up. And well, I've been in part in this attempt to open up because I've been connected with the peace movement over the last 10 years, and that has been a very fruitful combination for me. And what you in Sweden have been doing in this folk and fred and peace on earth and peace with earth, all these your attempts, I think are very, very useful. But I think what you, Shannon, and Marianne have done in your compilation is very, very useful, and I would very much recommend people to get hold of that book, whether in English, I don't know. I think it has been translated also into other languages, and take a good look at it. And then I would like to, if I may, put a specific question to Jolie, to some of the things. One of the things that you said, which also said me something. You said that people often talk about the nexus between climate change and conflict, and it has been more common to talk about this interconnections over the last 10 years. And I also used to say, to talk about this this nexus going both ways, that climate change in some cases can provoke conflict, and especially conflict, militarization, military, the spending, and not least the wars have huge impacts on the climate, and it has been outside of the UN, the way the emissions are how they are reported into the UN system because of the Kyoto Protocol. But you said that there was something about that talking about climate change that was provoking conflict, and I think it is maybe not at this moment so obvious, but I'm quite sure that it will be in the future, because the impact on the ground for people will become stronger and stronger and stronger, and necessarily this will induce conflicts. I'm convinced about that, but I would like to hear more from you about it. But the main thing is, yeah, Shannon's work is I can recommend that. It was too long.
Thank you. I will just make one comment and include an absent friend. And then I would like to ask the speakers, each of them, to comment each other. And then we have finally common discussions. We have a little bit less than 40 minutes left. We should end at 45. The absent friend, her name is Emily Molinari. She's from Italy, as you can hear, South Tyrol or Trentino. And she's working at the Office of International Peace Bureau, 24 years old. And she made a resolution for the International Peace Bureau Triennial in Barcelona some month ago. And the interesting is that this idea is now really starts to develop very much. That yes, of course, we have to maintain our main focus on what we have to continue, but at the same time try to do it in a different way where we somehow can combine efforts. And this is an organization started in 1891. So there is, and she is traveling. There was 5 others young people who had said the same thing. They happened to travel today, 3 of them from the human rights movement, among them Dmitry Makarov from the Helsinki Moscow group, who started this whole wide Helsinki movement in 1976. And he's questioning the profanization of the human rights movement and the double standards. And there are some tendencies in the same direction in the Swiss Helsinki Association and United for Intercultural Youth and Anti-Racist Organizations. So there are really these developments now, and that was really interesting now with Sinan pointing at this as well. So maybe there is this option, and maybe it's only this year. So please comment each other, and then we let the floor totally open for anyone. So let's begin, Yole. Have you any comments to what the others have been saying?
Yes, on the question around, and I kind of threw in there the example of climate change leads to conflict, conflict leads to climate change. The slogan that was this group called XRP put out, but it's that's more a reference to, for example, at the kind of international level and policy making level. There's this kind of term being thrown around like climate security, that is the kind of government's kind of militaristic approach to climate action that is using basically this idea that climate change leads to conflict, and discussion of climate change as they keep using the term threat multiplier. And I was just kind of a warning that when climate organizations repeat this, it's kind of an invitation to governments and kind of military industries to treat climate change as something that needs to be as a national security issue, to say, oh yeah, the risk is that climate change is going to lead to increased conflict, increased migration, we need to strengthen borders, we need to take this approach that is very kind of competition oriented, and it distracts from the root causes of insecurity and conflict that tend to be socioeconomic inequality. And it is true, there's research that shows that in some cases, yes, climate change can exacerbate issues and can lead or increase risk of local conflict. But in other cases, it actually leads to peace building. And it's just one kind of contributor or exacerbator. So what's happening is that that's kind of being ignored, and this discourse is being repeated that actually, no, climate change is a threat. It's going to lead to more global insecurity, and we need to take this very kind of alarmist, militarized approach to that. So just a warning against kind of an example of when this kind of dominant discourse is being repeated. Whereas on the other hand, what we do know is that, conflict certainly exacerbates climate change, but that's something that's more taboo to discuss. We can't discuss how militaries are contributing to this and how, all the kind of environmental harm that conflict and a militaristic approach is leading to. So yeah, just kind of explain that a bit more, why I threw that in there.
Okay, so Igor, have you something to comment on the other speakers?
Yes, first of all, thank you. It's really impactful for me to hear. Yeah, I'm really positively surprised that I heard so many voices of active people who are actually working on strategies on what to do, not just diagnosing the problem, which is really something we need. My question would be only to, as I already asked Julie about one thing, I would have one similar question to both Maximilian and Sinan, namely that have your organizations, or speaking of Sinan, with your networking appeal, do you have any contacts with any organizations from Eastern Europe or post-Soviet base that are the prominent ones or whatever that could be interesting for us as post-Soviet left to also contact them in our work as well? So do you happen to have any collaborations for now?
Yeah, you can answer directly, Yole.
The question was rather to I don't know, maybe any of you have Jolie as well, but the question was mostly for, as far as I understand, Maximilian and Sinan are more involved in this international organization.
I could say that in Läget Campesina there used to be a big organization in Romania now. I think they're not so active in Läget Campesina. But there might be some other organizations coming in. It's always changing. I can't give you a very good answer, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm.
But not in Russia or Ukraine. There is not Läget Campesina.
Yeah, I don't. So again, because I'm picking this up from this morning on, so I don't know with whom exactly we're talking about now, but I know that we have been talking to people from the Balkans and Yugoslavia, and not from East. What I can suggest is please do talk to me, and we follow up from because I need to check exactly what's going on, and ask Mariana and so on, so that we can pull those, pull those strings and build those bridges, but I don't really know exactly the current status. Is that, yeah, sorry, this is the most I can do at the moment.
Oh, okay, sure, of course, you cannot remember every single organization, I get it. So let's, I can just drop you an email. I think you already included the emails or contact details for anyone in the email, right? So that we all can be connected somehow.
Okay, there was in Georgia, Maximilian pointed at as well. But let's continue the round of the speakers, and then Palle wants to say something as well. But let's have the whole. So Maximilian and then finally Sinan comment each other, and then we have anyone who wants to say something. So Maximilian, do you have any comments to the other speakers?
No, sorry, not really comments. I'm a bit slow in processing, but I'm also very, very nice to hear more about strategy and talking about that. So I'll look up all you speakers again afterwards and see what you write more. I was not so prepared today. I'm sorry, but very nice to hear you.
Sinan.
Yeah, thanks. I would like to repeat what Igor said in terms of this was really on the point observations, on the point diagnostics with all the speakers. So I don't really have questions, but I want to I want to react to what Julie said. Just one thing, which is that thing of like, we can't do, like when you present these things and we were like, but we can't do everything, which is typically true. The strategy proposal that we wrote says now we might be able to do everything at once. It's possible because sometimes you can do a lot of things at once, but it implies coordinated strategy, right? It implies that we find ways of doing things that don't produce competition over resources, organizing resources, right? I think now we might be in a moment where combining forces can feed to existing movement, but as well as create new strengths that don't exist in the terrain now. So I think this might be a moment where like, no. You have to think about it now again. This answer about like militarization and climate could be like somehow valid from a strategic viewpoint, from an organizing viewpoint, say 8 years ago. Now it might be different, the answer. So I just thought about that. I was like, because I know that, because I say that a lot to a lot of proposals. In my own experience, like somebody comes up with something and it's like, I don't have resources for that, and because it really does not, it's not coherent with what else I'm doing. But it is possible to have a coherent answer now that combines strengths and organizational capacity. So that's just one reaction that I wanted to share. That things, I mean, it's an intuition that we have. Like, it's not really, but we may convince those people now better than 2 years ago or something. It's just, yeah, just wanted to share that.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And so I also realized I missed the request that was to speak to other speakers' speeches, which were all great. And I've actually been reading some of the links you shared, and would love to discuss things further because it's giving me food for thought on questioning some of the things I'd even said. But yeah, I agree that often the immediate response of a particular group is, we can't do all of this. But yeah, the idea is it's more about how, I often say, than what. I also had a question, not necessarily to other speakers, but I just wondered to all attendees, if anyone, you're all, experts in your own regards and bring your own experiences. I guess, yeah, your reflections maybe on some of the things that were said, and if you find similarities, for example, with your experiences in your groups and countries of the things we've said, or do you think there are things you've experienced that actually contradict some of the things you suggested? Anyone would like to share?
Thank you. Then we have 25 minutes left, and we can have this free discussion, and then will be a 15 minutes pause before we have 1 hour to discuss one issue where we cannot separate the issues. It's the European Union. So that will be a continuation of the kind of discussion we have now. But now we have an open floor. Palle, you had your hand up before. Is it still something you would like to add?
Yes, but I would like to hear from other people first, if
Yeah, please. Me too. If one can say such things today.
Well, if not, then I would like to reply to Igor that we in Friends of the Earth have contacts, of course, in Russia. There's a group in Russia, Friends of the Earth Russia, and I personally haven't had contact with them, but it is there, and I know that also in Georgia and in and in the peace movement, the Nordic Peace Alliance, we've had some contacts also in Russia. Tord will know more about that.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for the context. So, like, yeah, I'm just gathering more like trying to gather the list of organizations we could also seek to do some form of collaboration with. So, like, let's stay in context per email. Like, if you could also, like, you have a specific name, then just feel free to drop it. Will be really, really helpful for us at this stage. Thank you. Thank you.
But if you drop your
yeah, I can do it. I can do it here in the chat as well.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm impressed because many say that young people are not interested in anything else than some very focused single issue discussions. And actually that is also much of our experience. There has been a tendency in Friends of the Earth Sweden, and partly also Friends of the Earth Denmark, to try to link the issues. And it was very prominent at the Klima Forum 0.9 in Copenhagen, where the permaculture organization initiated, the International Permaculture, initiated a process that ended up in a conference with 50,000 participants and a declaration which for more than anything else before and after really linked militarization, the need for constructive local changes, anti-neoliberal solutions, etc., etc. So there has been this, and Friends of Denmark was very much part of that attack, but also many sort of grassroots ecologists. While the big mainstream organizations said, we don't need an alternative conference because we are so invited inside. That became a mistake. But it's also clear that these things were a one-time event, and it was possible for some years to continue, etc. And then it has been a tendency that it's the older generation trying to link, and now suddenly all of you are in some ways more advanced than these old-fashioned guys like Palle and me. And I think that is my impression. Last year, the amount of younger people who really started to address these strategic issues grow twice or thrice. So there is maybe a new situation right now. But then the rest of us here, mostly older people, have to sort of speak now when you have the chance. So please, the floor is yours. You cannot be silent now when suddenly other people are taking the lead. Silence. This is silence. Yeah, I wait for somebody else than Palle, and then I will ask Palle. I see a lot of knowledgeable people here, and they are silent. How come? Birgitta.
Oh, of course, this is the moment. Well, I'm very happy about this event and to hear those young voices, and also to hear Palle from Denmark and us from Friends of the Earth doing something really important. That I'm very happy about that. And this cooperation between movements, I mean, it's so important. And maybe it's not so hard. One can hesitate and think, oh, it's not possible to do it. Different types of organizations working together, it's not possible. But maybe, like Sinan here has a lot of energy, and she thinks it is possible to work together and to do something at this very historical moment, which I think it is actually. So concrete action, concrete strategy, well, it's about this. I cannot say more at this moment. I have to think a little. Thank you.
You have to say something about yourself, and the name of your local organization is fantastic. Small Seeds.
This is a very small organization in a small village with a small school, and since 10 years now, we have a small, organization called the Organization of Small Seeds. So it's parents, it's village people, it's children, and the school working together on a school garden. That's what we're doing. Building together, sowing seeds together, and harvesting together. That's my basic project at the moment. Thank you.
At the same time, you happen to be one of the founders of People and Peace.
Yes.
And you happen to be the coordinator of the Peace Committee in Sweden. But we have to have this local base. Without that, we don't get anywhere, right?
Okay, thank you, Tord.
Yeah. Okay, Palle, as nobody have raised their hand yet, I do hope that they will do.
Yeah, okay. It's a reflection to what Sinan said. This is about you have a feeling that something can happen now that couldn't have happened 2 years ago or 3 years ago. I don't know about that, but I think it's very interesting to think that way, and maybe you're right. For instance, what's happening now with the pressure on Greenland brings a lot of people together in Denmark and Greenland, and connections that have not happened before. Yesterday we had a call with Friends of the Earth US and people from Greenland and people from Friends of the Earth International and Friends of the Earth Europe and us in NOAA, and we managed to put things together that we didn't do before. It was at the spur of the moment, and tomorrow there'll be a large, I suspect, very large demonstration in Copenhagen and 3 other larger cities in Denmark in support of Greenland. And everybody is talking about this, just like some of you said, that suddenly an issue takes the agenda, and there's a lot of realization about United States that has not been possible earlier, but now with the Trump his provocations, people realize things that they didn't see before. So that's an example from here.
No, that's really interesting. It really confirms what Sinan said, that we have new constituencies, sort of. I was not aware, you talked about free, the Palestine, and you talked about 2 more. I didn't miss that, which the ones you pointed at as important sort of movements at the moment. I were able to hear what you said there.
You want me to repeat something?
Yes, please. Yes, please.
Sorry, I didn't understand if there was a request attached to that. No, there was, so it's different categories, right? So this stuff about Trump, Greenland, and so on, it's more European immediate problem, as in it radicalizes a bunch of people who are not radical. But at the same time, there are a lot of people that self-identify as radical, which may or may not be in in other standards. But it is also important. It is possible to now make those connections. So one was about Latin America. So because the Venezuelan aggression, first of all, Trump is not framing it as a one-time thing. It's like, where next? Like, that's how he's framing, right? He's framing it as Cuba's time has come. He threatened Colombia. Like, so there's that, which is Latin American people are really needing our help. And there is the underlying Sahel alliance that has had a very strong anti-imperialist movement, grassroots movement. We see a lot of the top-ranking officials talking, but if we actually go to the grassroots, there is a grassroots revolution taking place now. And this, for instance, like I have been talking to people from La Via Campesina in Mali and Burkina Faso. They are saying they have a different story to tell about the revolutionary process. And that is also under threat because they have taken a lot of steps that were, in Europe, they were presented as quite hostile. Because, in general, anti-imperialist policies seen hostile in Europe. So there is a moment now that we can put those connections together because it's the same system doing all of these things. So that's the kind of reference that I was making, that there is a moment now that we can do something that touches people now, but at the same time has the colonial perspective embedded into it if we do it the right way. So that's that was the angle that I was coming with.
Okay, Lars Drake, please.
Okay. First, I'd like to say who I am. I've been active in People and Peace and No to NATO in Sweden and a couple of other peace-related organizations. This issue of that there might be a case now where you can do different things than before. I think there's another side of this, and it's what is going on generally in the world. And it's, of course, Venezuela, Greenland, Gaza, and Iran, many different things, and also Ukraine. And what is going on last year, 2025, we had a development of the front, which was in Russian favor just about the whole year. And the speed of this increase in territory in favor of Russia has increased. The speed has increased. And now, which is rather new, there are many leading politicians in European countries who are saying that we must talk to Putin because they have refused to do that for almost 4 years. And now it's changing. Before it was Orban and maybe one or two others. But now it's getting to a point where something is really going on. And of course, it's very clear to me that the situation on the battlefront and also internally in the system in Ukraine is so bad that they have to do something. This is a part of the framework of which gives the basic conditions for peace movements and activities. And I think many of the things that you've said have been very interesting concerning what things the peace, various parts of the peace movement has to do. And I agree with that. But I think it's very important to see the basic things. And I think NATO is becoming much weaker because of all the various contradictions between the countries that make up NATO. It's a very serious situation for them. That means NATO is not an organization which can act with power. and we're going to see major differences in the next couple of months and year. And also, of course, what is going on in the south of the world with BRICS and so on, which shifts the economic power and so on and so forth. So this is really big things going on, and I think we have to understand that and relate to it in the peace movement. Thank you.
Okay, then Mika Böök from Finland. Your microphone, Mika.
Okay, I'm an old peace activist from Finland, and we are very close to Russia and to the Eastern Europe. And I'm a little bit disappointed that we have not invented any questions to Igor Romanchuk, and I think his group or organization is very interesting and important. And the question I thought of asking is more like a detail question. It's about conscientious objectors and conscription. This is concerns a lot of people in a situation with the war in Ukraine and actually also in Western Europe, when Germany, for instance, are introducing conscription again. In Finland, we have conscription, but also conscientious objectors. Anyway, how do you, Igor, or how does your group view this these problems and these people? Let me say still that I have never had many contacts with Russians, but I have had some, and we used to travel easily to Leningrad and St. Petersburg by train in a couple of hours. And the most important example for me for years has been a man called Boris Kagarlitsky, whom I met sometimes 2002 at the World Social Forum, and I have been much in contact with him. I met him in Russia and so forth, but now he sits in jail for 5 years, they say, for some absurd reason. They say that the authorities in Russia, that he has engaged in some kind of helping terrorists or terrorist activity, but he's a sociologist and a philosopher. Many of you might have heard of him. He's quite famous. Is he famous in your group, and do you have any comment on his case, for example? Do you feel being part of the movement who wants to set him free? So there were a lot of questions now, but please, Igor, tell us more. And also, we must have, I think, if it shall be all in all, and Tord has thought much about this, I've done much on this, but this East-West dimension is still, of course, very central, also very discussed strategy.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you for your question, Mika. So I will gladly answer both of them. First of all, will be a bit shorter about Boris Kagarlitsky. Yeah, of course, we all of us know him. He's indeed, as you mentioned, a big media figure as well in, like I would say, left-wing social network area. So even me, as like Ukrainian national that has never been to Russia, knows a lot about him and admires his job as well. So of course, we are standing against repression against any political activists. Like, regardless, even if Boris Kagarlitsky was a liberal, we would still be against his imprisonment, because we are against any imprisonment for political views, which is something that unfortunately happens a lot in Russia, a bit in like more so in Ukraine, but still, like, there are cases that people are getting repressed in Ukraine for their views, and has been started since the start of 2022 as well. So here solidarity is quite clear. We also supported, for instance, there had been a case also in Russia with one activist being, as far as I know, again, repressed, sentenced to, first of all, to, how you call the time-limited detention center. He was organizing meetings in Novosibirsk, and we raised funds to support him as well. And the story was a happy ending. In the end, he could be set free due to the initial sum, the deposit he had to give in order to set himself free, so to say. This was the recent case. It happens, I think, in December or something. So, of course, we are with all people who are sentenced for their political views. Second question about the conscientious objectors, the people who are going AVOL or who are leaving the country due to conscriptional reasons. I mean, here is the answer is the same. Of course, we are actively standing for them. In fact, on every meeting that our organization is participating offline, on any demonstration, we have this banner which says "No war, no fascism." This is like two slogans that we are, as an organization, holding. So, of course, like we are also involved in actively in any or like organizations or demonstrations aimed towards helping the conscientious objectors from Ukraine, because from Ukraine, they're, for the most parts, they represent a big community in several European states. So, of course, we're standing with them with a full solidarity, and we, of course, aim to support them with whatever we can. There has been a case of a common case, for instance, we had with our house organization from Belarus, where we, and I was also involved with it, and our organization, say, one of the founders of our organization, Andrei Demidov, was also involved in it. When we helped a guy who was like sentenced to the front line from the Russian side, who illegally escaped the border with Lithuania. And we managed, at least, he was first sent to Finland, to Helsinki. And then he messaged me recently that he managed to get to Strasbourg. So for now, he's much more safe, because a couple of months ago, it was really hanging on the thin line for him that he was, he could be basically deported on the request from Lithuanian authorities back to Russia, which is, especially in those cases, we are providing the support that is required, and we aim to like help every conscientious objector there is from post-Soviet space.
Thank you, and with that we end this session. I think we all feel that this was really bringing a lot of new perspectives, and this was organized very lately. And I think there were many more interested young speakers, and that hopefully we can continue this kind of process, and try to see if what Sinan Eden hopes for is really there. I would say I was just traveling 2 months through Europe and made a report about it. And I hear more and more very short things in the marginal, which seem to be very, very interesting. So let's continue to have contact. And now we will take 15 minutes pause. And then Thomas Valgren, who you already see here, is here. He will have a 1 hour discussion on a point about EU in the time of war and peace and in a changing world order. So we'll come back at 19 o'clock.